Yes, right, we're here. Welcome to an absolutely amazingly brilliant episode of Does Contain Nuts, the podcast that grabs life by the balls. And I'll tell you what, right, today we will be grabbing life by the balls and yanking on those bastards pretty damn hard, because I'm Phil Highland, there's Lee Hogarth, and today, for the first time ever, we've got someone to make this brilliant podcast even better, right? The guy's name is Ben Fanning. He's an absolute powerhouse in so many different areas of life, right? I met him through the same program that I met Lee. We're both good mates. We're all in business together as well. We've got a whole load of shit going on, right? But this dude is not only one of the most motivational people I've ever come across. He'll probably cringe and I'm blowing smoke up his ass right now, right? Lee will agree with this, right? He's a motivational powerhouse. He's a businessman powerhouse. He's a family man powerhouse as well. He's got one fucking ridiculous hell of a story. And I'm sure we're going to go into a bit of detail in that over the next however long we're talking to him for. Lee, what you got to add?
I didn't think I can add anything else to that, to be honest. I think we just need to grab Ben by the legs and pull him back down to earth again.
Yeah.
I think he's took off. Took off to the moon somewhere.
Well, if you don't stay tuned in for the next whatever after that introduction, then must be something wrong with your ears.
I think what I'm looking forward to the most about this and about this interview is hearing, because you've done your story, I've done my story, and Ben's got a totally different story again, and just hearing the story of how where he started to exactly where he is now. So yes, he's a powerhouse now. He's an ultimate role model, but it hasn't always been that way. And this is the stuff that gets me excited. This is the stuff that I feel connection to. This is the stuff that's the real raw part of the whole podcast. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, Benjamin Fanning, I'm going to hand it to you. You can introduce yourself and take it away.
Nah, listen, I'm just sitting here, a big Cheshire cat on my face, looking at you two guys give me that big up there, and I'll pay you that money later on. I appreciate it, but I also, I'm just happy to be the one that broke the virginity in being the first guy or the first person with you two guys, because I can say the same back to you. It's a real honour to be on here, but at the same time, it's a real inspiration what you guys are doing. So to pop the cherry, man, I'm absolutely honoured. But no, you said some key things there, Phil and Lee, that we've all got a story to tell, and I believe no one is any better, any different. So everybody's story is unique in its own way, but for us being vulnerable and sharing our story, especially to an audience, it helps you connect, right? It helps you connect and understand. And when people relate, that's when they can be inspired, and that's when they can start taking some real action. So we'll keep it PG, as I was saying before. But going back to the first couple of chapters, things started pivoting for me a little bit the wrong way from school. Now, I'm not blaming anybody, but at that time, I was a kinesthetic learner. I didn't know. I was dyslexic. Couldn't really take orders. People telling me what to do, and that was a bad flavour for school. That's put me in right at the bottom of the pack for people who wanted to grow in that type of environment. But if you can't grow, then for me, you're going to start to rebel. And that's exactly what happened, We had a little bit of a crew that had similar issues or problems, so to say. And, we had our own little networking environment going on. But, there was like little rebels against the system. But, no disrespect to any of the teachers, but at that moment in time, I wasn't learning anything. So we started to get distracted doing all types of crazy stuff. And by the time the last year in high school come, I think I had 3 lessons a day. 2 or 3 lessons a day for the teachers that had let me in the class, right? And it was only my own fault for getting there, but I just had a real problem with education. So by the time I come out of school, I started looking for other options. At that moment in time, coming from Manchester, there was limited options available, and there was a big arm in street culture at the time that was just putting it around people and saying, "Come this way." And with a big set of balls and ambition, I quickly got myself in the ranks and started doing what I did best, and have the green eye monster and tried making money. But it was popular at the time. I think if you remember, Manchester was real big on the scene. United were blowing up. If you know who that is, Manchester United. Big up all the Manchester United fans across the world. But at the same time, hip hop was big. If you remember, and it was just real like this cultural environment. I just to be a badass, and I relish in that. That was me. I loved to do that. That was about. And I quickly grew the ranks and done what I did best. But you know, swiping that aside, what I think was looking for was that sense of community, that sense of belonging, and that's one thing that I got from there. You know, I got a lot of love for the people that you know went through these times with me. You know, some are here, some are not. But at the same time, you know, as bad as it was, there were some good memories and, you know, a lot of lessons learned from there. And, you know, we played the game, but the game also played us. And, you know, we've seen a lot of death from mass destruction, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of fun and a lot of highs. And, you know, to understand what was going on at that moment in time in Manchester, you know, it was plagued with gang activity. It was plagued with drugs. It was plagued with the mentality of being a so-called badass, right? And in the school of hard knocks, there ain't no rules. You make up the rules. So, you know, there's pros and cons with that. At the time, you know, you have to wear them different mask of emotions or those different mask of people. You know, you had to act a certain way. You had to be a certain way. There was no time to really show any weakness in any way, shape or form around your crew or not. And, you know, as long as gang activity was all about that, it wasn't really my scene. I was more about making sure that was all together. We had love for each other. You know, the morals and respect was there. And I was the type of guy that would, you know, do some harm to people, you know, done the harm to people that wasn't there, i.e., you know, your rapists and that in the world. So, you know, it was a real mix of emotions, real mix of experiences. But, you know, going back to this particular year, there was gang activity was real high. And because we wasn't really in the gang activity and got on with everybody, we was pretty much a blend of being able to do what we want, who we want, with when we want, right? And so we got to see both sides of it, friends on each side that were warring, friends on each side that were being a victim to this lifestyle. Again, you got to understand about the families that, you know, because all these wasn't in it, but see what's going on. You know, drug addicts and people losing the humanity of what life was all about, being distracted and being embedded in a society that didn't have nothing but just raw chaos. You know, there was a tit for tat, and it led to some serious stuff. And this particular year, one of my good friends was shot dead, and then on the aftermath of that, he's at the funeral. You know, something happened there, and other people died. Now, in this particular part, there's no real right or wrong, right? It's just, for me, all wrong. And looking back in it now, you know, I don't even know what was going on them days. But, you know, with the chaos that was going on, lucky for me, a little bit of time after that, I done some stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. And I found myself in jail for a little while. It wasn't too long, but it was in there things started to really change, because I remember, you know, I mean, jail, I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but for me, it wasn't as hard as it would for most people, you know, a lot of people that we knew in there. But one thing it gave me was this little bit of time just to slow down and listen. And for a long time, I was playing this victim, right? That everybody was to blame but me for this position that I was in. And, you know, in a 6x4 cell, the loudest voice that you've got is the one in your head. You know, this monologue, just talking and being able to break down. And I started to think, you know, a lot of this noise, you know, being a prisoner to my own thoughts and having this loudest part of the day, I just had to listen. When I started to listen, I really started to realize a lot of stuff that was being said was just bullshit, you know? And when, you know, you come from a place I come from, you know, I'm not saying it is or it isn't anywhere else, but I ain't got no time for bullshit. And at that point, realizing that all that bullshit was the stuff that I created, the noise that I was creating, you know, breakdowns lead to breakthroughs. I just started to think, wow, you know, I'm not a product of my environment. I'm not a product of the people that I'm blaming. I'm a product of my own decisions. And the breakthrough was, if I'm a product of my decisions, then I can change some shit. You know, Jim Rohn says it the best, you know, it's not the blowing of the wind that determines where you end up in life. It's the set of the sail. You know, I didn't know that then, but what it did do is just reflect and go, you know, whether it is the life for me or not, you know, I've just got to change what course I'm on here. You know, I'm looking to live, not just exist. And, you know, didn't even really have no role models at the time that can get me out of that. But with that passion and that understanding what I was going to do next, you know, the steps that come is exactly where I am now.
I love that. That bit of reflection, you know, I've said this on my programs. I know, Lee, you say it a lot. Reflection is where the answers hide. You know what I mean? And you can have all the tools, you can have all of this going on, but unless you actually sit and reflect and actually think, hold on, what's going on right now, and see and find the answers, it's kind of, you don't go anywhere, do you? You know, I think that's a real good point.
I think
that's a great point, Phil. Sorry, Lee. Sorry to cut you off. This is one thing that I remember thinking. Everybody wants to answer, but nobody wants to ask the question.
Yeah.
So that reflection time, you're right. You go into question time, you're going, where am I at right now? What's going on? Why are people dying? Why am I a victim to this? Why did this happen at school? Why? And it was them, when you start asking that question, you get a real answer. And, I feel sometimes on my reflection on the question, people don't want to ask the question because they don't want to know the truth. Because everyone does this, right? Everyone, I had to look at a hard truth. At that point in my life, I'm 17 stone. I'm overweight. I'm aggressive. I'm acidic. And that's not the person I was made out to be. I'm a caring man. My heart was big. I was the guy that gave money to people that didn't have it. The guy that beat up your stepdad for beating up your mum. My heart was massive. And that's probably, not saying a downfall, but it was too big at times. I got myself into situations I didn't need to be in because I felt like that, that love or compassion for people. I had to be there. So to look at the truth and ask yourself that question, the answer sometimes isn't, truth isn't always easy. But it really is a time when I started asking them questions, which is the only knowledge and skill I had at the time that really started to give me an answer. And I think when you get them answers, you can really start making them next steps.
I think it's that question is so vital, and I've never really thought about it that way until you've just said. A lot of people kind of know what they call the facts. They know what's happened, and they chew upon the situations that they're going through. So they might be like, they'll think of everything that's going wrong, and they'll be like, this has causes this pain, this has happened, that's happened, this has happened, that's happened. But again, they're just going through and repeating in their head what's happened. They're just chewing over what's happened. They're not actually doing what, like you just said, they're not asking themselves a question why. They're just kind of, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened, my life's hell. And they're making statements to themselves. So like, I don't deserve to be here because this has happened, and they hate me, and he hates me, and nobody wants any time with me. But they're not willing to say, why do they hate me? Like, why does nobody want to spend time with me? Why do I feel this way? They're not willing to ask the question. And like you said, the analogy of just hiding, they're kind of hiding, but they're taking all of those statements with them. But if they just ask the questions, they can kind of set themselves free and open up a pathway to feel a lot better, shall we say?
No, it's a great point, and it was that question to myself because at that time in my life, obviously, your mum and dad's always going to be saying, you need to do well at school. Teachers telling me I was stupid. Teachers telling me I was thick. My friends saying, no, you're good at this, you're good at that. At all that edge, but people were telling me what I was supposed to be doing in life, and having that time to reflect and asking that question, what do I want out of life? What is it I want to be? What options are on the table? I've been told, especially from the cultures. I mean, environments a big part, like a seed, you need sun, you need soil, you need rain for things to grow. And my environment and many other environments at that time was just a cesspit of shit. So not much is going to grow out of there, but you're blinded and you're blindsided by the whole hype in terms of, what's possible. Like, money is the answer. If you've got money, power is the answer. If you've got authority is the answer. You've got to have respect. And I started to quickly figure out, you ain't got no respect for anybody unless you got respect for yourself.
Yeah.
You ain't got no love for anybody until you got love for yourself, you know what I mean? And it was all externally based. I didn't know that then because, my vocabulary, my mindset, my skill set was just all based around making money, keeping it real and trying to get to a point that when I got this money or if you got to this standard, that it was a next breakthrough. And when I started asking myself, what is the next breakthrough? What happens next? If you quickly seen around me the people I loved and respect, losing their lives and losing their freedom, I was like, no, there's no one greater than this type of system. There's no one, maybe very few, and that's just by chance. And if anything, for where I am now, getting through all that, it wasn't by any greater skill set and knowledge than anybody else. It was sheer luck and having been, awakened through learning by my mistakes. But it's a very powerful thing straight off the off in this podcast, that the power of question. You can really pivot what you want and what you don't want.
Yeah, definitely. So you grew up Manchester, tough time, gangs, violence, drugs, all that shit that went on, right? Get locked up. Then what happened? What changed? In fact, hold on, before we go there, 17 stone, right? How much you weigh now?
Yeah. I'm about just shy of 14 stones, but I've got abs now, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. So there you were. So what happened then, mate? Follow on from that.
Yeah, great question. So, you know, I was searching for something. I think when you're searching, you're going with your heart compass. You know, you start seeing things, don't you? And there was an opportunity for ex-cons to work in a gym. I mean, a gym, you couldn't be further away from a next step, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, that's the only thing on the table. You know, this is my environment, my possibilities changing and my opportunities changing. And so I was like, well, you know, one of my boys, Steve Smythe, you've met him, absolute OG for me, you know, on what we've done. Hopefully we'll get him on there one time. But, you know, he was there too. In fact, he was the one that put my name forward. So he's like, you know, we'll do it together and stuff. So anyway, we take a step in getting in the gym world. And I'm lucky thinking I'm out of shape. You know, again, I don't do well with orders. I don't do well with telling me what to do. I don't do well in what we call a civil world, you know, really. And I remember, you know, going through the process, and I think, you know, a real credit to the people on that journey, because Andrea, the woman that brought us in, she was lovely. She understood. She spoke to us on a level. She was saying, you know, I know what, you know, it wasn't just like, oh, you're just in the working world. It was like a transformation system, so to say, a transition. So we met her, and then we met the manager. Then he was like, look, this is what we're trying to do, and it's a great opportunity and all this type of stuff. So there was always encouraging. And then obviously my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, was like, you know, just take the chance. I mean, as a man, you're a bit self-conscious. Like, I'm 17 stone. I didn't want to bring that into fruition, right? But right there, I'm like, Jim, really? But it was crazy because, you know, stepping into that, one of the things I remember is when I started to train, I started to feel better. You know, and at that time, my feeling better didn't come from training. It come from some sabotaging behaviours, right? Mm. So when I started to feel better, obviously I started asking a question, wow, I feel better, what's that about? And then I started struggling with the level 2 and level 3. Couldn't really read and write proper, but the guys that were doing the course were like, Ben, you've got a gift. You know, you can talk when you speak, people listen. You know, you've got a sense of authority. Boom, boom, boom. I'm like, okay. And then, but I said, look, I'm struggling with reading and writing these answers. So I remember just doing some of the exams, and they were like, well, we'll read the answer to you. You give us, read the question. You give us the answer. We'll write it down. And anyway, I passed. Yeah. And it's crazy.
As well.
You remember getting into this game where you used to have to do Facebook posts. You used to have to like voice note people or do my post, and then again a limiting belief, right? Because I've got told I couldn't read or write. I'm not like Phil that's on mastery at writing, but I can definitely do a post within an hour now, right? Don't give me the gift of talking, not writing. I don't know. But where was I? Yeah, so you know that broke through, and the reason why that's important, why I'm telling you that, is because my environment started to change, my network started to change, started to see people started to relate to them where I always divided us. You don't know what you don't know the use a civil, and I started to like really get encouraged by people, encourage people, and just like that limelight of just, no one wanted nothing but my time. In fact, there was a time that I come home to Lisa, and I'm like, I don't know about this place. And she's like, why? And I'm like, I think they're all shady. They're all trying to stab me in the back. She's like, why do you say that? I said, they're all dead nice. She was like, are you deluded? She's like, you deluded. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you might just be being nice. I don't know.
Yeah, some people are just nice, aren't they?
And anyway, what happened there was, a beautiful relationship grown. Not only the people around me started to trust me in terms of my work colleagues, people started to love me for me, in terms of like having customers and clients and doing classes. And, I was living 2 worlds at that time, but, that was a world that was batting towards. And what really happened then was they opened up like a super gym, and we were putting applications in for this super gym. And going to get someone in trouble there, but one of the head ponchos comes and says, look, you don't really have to put an application in. We want you to be one of the 5, but we have to go through the process. Now I was honoured. I was like, really? Giving me this opportunity, I'm going to flourish. And at that point, I was like, I'm just going to step this game up. But then he was a guy, a good friend of mine now called Matt Ford, and he come to show us how this synergy system worked, like this big apparatus thing. And he asked a question, he said one day, and there was a few of us there. He said, who are some of the world's leading personal trainers right now? And I'm like, looked him dead in the eye, and I said, me? This guy started laughing, because you can see him serious. I'm like, everyone's telling me I'm the best, you know what I mean? I've got old 84-year-old Doris saying the burpees are killing her. You know, I'm the man. And she's just looking at me like, these guys just looking at me like, he's serious, right? And then again, now a good friend of mine, Celeste, goes, Charles Poliquin, that's reeling off all these names. And I'm like, who's old guys? You know, are you from the other gym up the road? And she said, no, look. So she showed me at the break. I didn't even know this stuff existed. So she's like, yeah, you can do personal and professional development. I'm like, what? What's that? And you know, for me trying to grow as a man, I started looking into it. Met this guy called Phil Richards. You know, you fellas know I've invested over 6 figures with some of the best in the world from that point. I can't remember all the investments, but I remember that one because it was like 300 quid. And I'm like, do you think these guys are going to rip me off? And that was the beauty of it, you know. I started then to understand personal professional development and just started to, you know, follow the success, the footprints of success, and started really connecting with like-minded people. That was where I wanted to be and learn from them. Like they say, you know, leaders need leadership, and you know, I've just expanded in all areas, and now we're here, fellas.
That's some journey, that, like, that's some journey. That's what I love that, how at the start when you were talking about in prison and stuff like that, how you were kind of confident in that side of living and not being in society, to being in the gym and now saying to that bloke that you're the best PT on the planet.
But I think it's just that mentality of being there, right? Just being in different cultures. You know, I feel like we're always the same person. You're just sharpening the skills, ain't you? You know, when I done what I did, I believed I was the best. I believed I was invincible. I think, you know, that self-belief's important. But, you know, you can imagine coming from somewhere where you felt like you had some authority, or you felt like you had some respect, or you felt like you had some power. I'd like to say I did. You know, so coming where nobody knows you, it's a clean slate and having to build all up again. It was like building a whole new personality. You know, don't get me wrong, I got some things wrong. I'd approached people in the wrong way. Obviously, they didn't know set procedures. They would come at me in a certain way and didn't like the repercussions, but I always kept it real. And again, you know, that mentality with the people that I loved and respected. You know, nobody could leave weights down in the gym. You know, I can remember one time I ran out of the gym, got a load of young guys and come back, put all the weights away. You know, still at that level of respect and love. You know, that didn't change. So, you know, I think if you got your you know, life's morals compasses in place, and, you know, you love people, you respect people, you know, you got some dignity, you know, it goes a long way. And I think that's what made me progress in that environment, that, you know, no matter what, I was always fair. You know, I never come across that I'm better than you or you're better than me. I was always open-minded, you know, and at the same time, with the mentality I did on what you say, that side of the fence to this side of the fence, I was still being me, but I felt like I could just flourish more without, you know, the old worry of being, yeah, you know, one of them.
Rolled up in carpet.
yeah. All rolling people up in carpet.
All rolling, yeah. So, yeah, I guess you've got to talk to old Doris on a treadmill differently to someone on the street who owes you money, right? You can't, you've got to,
I mean, that's a big change, isn't it? One thing while we're there, though, fellas, let's just explain a little bit more. You know, change isn't easy, and that transition wasn't easy. Sometimes, you know, I was like, what am I doing? I was questioning everything. You know, I'm not going to lie, I lost my identity a few times, didn't know who to be, what to be. But, you know, growth, it always has a consequence. Expansion always has some cost. And, you know, for what I invested in, for what I'm back now, for me, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, you know, for me and my family, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a chapter, right? You know, I know there's a lot of people that go, wow, I probably won't be able to relate to that story. And you're not supposed to, because it's my story. Like, I can't relate to any of yours. But I can relate to, when, you know, when I spoke about this across the globe, is, look, has anybody felt fear, guilt, shame, depression, anxiety, overwhelm? You know, like, going to that point, you don't think you can do it no more. And a lot of people could put their hand up. And I say, well, you know, you've felt what I felt. It's just a different cause and effect. And that's why I feel like it's powerful to talk this stuff, because people listening in can, you know, relate to that. And I feel that's a very key point in where we're at now, fellas, in that vulnerability right now. We know it's saving lives, because people think they're on their own with this stuff. You know, there's a lot of people that I felt like I left behind, and I didn't leave them behind. They didn't make steps. You know, we go back to that analogy of being a tugboat in a lighthouse, that we went through that program. It's a story that's told across that program still, that for a long time I was trying to save everybody. And it was coming to the cost of my own health and my own mindset. It was bringing me to my knees. But when you realise the only thing you can do is show what's possible and lead by example, you know, that's where I feel like I really found myself, you know, and that's what I've dedicated my life to now. You know, stepping up, leading by example, understanding where you're at, but less about problem, more about solution, and let's get into some form of action, you know.
So there you were. So you're in the gym. Sorry, mate. You're in the gym, and then you're a very different guy now to the guy in that gym, right? I imagine you're doing a hell of a lot more. I've known you for a couple of years.
Yeah,
and you've got a lot of stuff going on, right? So you were this guy, there you was, locked up, came out, gym. What's gone on between then and now? Just give a little bit of a brief kind of rundown on where you're at right now, mate, because you've done some pretty gnarly stuff.
Yeah, man, when you look at it, it's crazy, right? So I feel like I just started to outgrow the gym. Didn't feel like I was growing anymore. Felt like I was the sharpest tool in the box, and you know, created this culture. I created this this community, and you know, I loved every minute of it. But I just thought, you know, I'm not getting tested. I'm ready to grow and expand again. I just felt like it outrun its cause. But what I did start to see across people, and saying myself, I was changing a lot of people physically, but mentally they were just staying the same. You know, and I was motivating. I could speak. We could get some things off the chest. I would relay where I was. I'd go back to the army of stuff that got me through hard times back in the day, and I'd give him you, but I just had no real strategy. I had no real education, although I knew a little bit. So, you know, with that as well, and then wanting, you know, this lifestyle of residual income, you know, I was passionate about that. I feel like everybody's worth more than a per hour wage. I wanted to, you know, work to live, not live to work. You know, I started to understand, you know, that, you know, with guys that I was listening to, millionaires, not saying money's the route to all happiness, but it's the quickest way to measure it. And I just started to see, you know, people who are millionaires having more income streams, and I was like, right, you know, time for me to spread my wings again. So crazy enough, through that program that we was in, and we started to understand, you know, the bank of accounts abilities, and looking at the different accounts that we can invest in terms of our physical, mental, you know, family, business, fun, all this stuff that we know. I found myself wound up with some in the oil game in Texas. I don't know how I ended up there. I mean, this was a hell of a time, and we had some good fun. And but I'd always had like sales offices. You know, I was always into showing how people sell products, because you know this was a skill set and knowledge that comes to me very easy when you've been in the game of a tough commodity. You know, every commodity after that comes pretty easy, but again, it wasn't fitting with what I felt right. You know, it was chasing the money again. And I know when you chase the money, I know what happens. The good and the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly appears, right? And you're always outweighed. So I started to see that again with the guys around me. Guys making serious money, you know, but overweight. Friday comes, we're down in, you know, Texas City, blowing all the money in that lifestyle. It's cool for a little minute, but it's not sustainable. And I wanted to go gym, and it was just this match that didn't fit. And then, man, one of my friends then committed suicide. And he'd had a rough time, this fellow. He was shot in the face as a young man, and he just never got over it. PTSD, they like to label things, don't they, you know? And he just always struggled with it, whether that was his cause, I don't know. But, you know, he'd say things like, I'm not supposed to be here. And I mean, of course you're supposed to be here. You've been shot in the face and you're still alive, you know? And anyway, he got too much for him, and he committed suicide. And I remember coming back for the funeral, and I'm stood with one of my mates, Winston. I think you've met him, Chewy. And he looks at me, he's like, I can see you. Yeah, but it just ain't you no more. You know what? You're different. You got this energy about you, and whatever you're doing, you need to start sharing it. You know, people need to know. And I'm just looking at him like, yeah, that makes sense. And he was a week after it. It was like, you know, like the aftermath of the party. And I didn't go. I went to a little restaurant, a little Jamaican restaurant over the road. And I sat in there in a meeting. And again, going back to that reflection, asking the question, like, you know what? What can I do? How do I show people what to do? Or how can I give them a strategy, a tactic, a tool, whatever it was called? I don't know. But that again just asked the question, and I just knew I just had to follow my heart compass, and just started following the gut. Again, started investing. You know, that program that we was in helped a lot. We started to understand what was residual. You know, it was being wholehearted to helping people, started to expand my network. You obviously know the fella that I met. And then, yeah, we got into that game. We started to see it. You know, I was into supplementation anyway, and I was like, man, I found my match. Now we have to build an empire. Started to understand that the industry was getting in. You know, it wasn't about them having to pay me, which was obviously a route that I could have done as a coach, but a way that they could invest in themselves, grow mentally, physically, emotionally. And it wasn't just important to have a business, but spread the word, their word, do what I did, tell a story, give people strategy, you know, get into the understanding, you know, the priority of self-care. And I thought, you know, I mean, my biggest goal is to have enough authority that I can challenge, not even challenge, but give people enough understanding that they can start making smarter choices. Because right now, people are just in the mix, right? The people are just so blindsided by what they should be doing and what's possible. It's like all just mixed into one. And, you know, as you know, then we lost, you know, 9 friends on the back end of that from suicide. And it just become then like a non-negotiable way. Like, no, we create a strategy that people can follow. You know, leaders need leadership. At the same time, this part of life now needs an upgrade. You know, no one's got that, except for people. Not saying no one's got it, but it's, you know, this is a responsibility that us guys have got now to get it out there. So now it's become a life. This is where we're at, you know, wholeheartedly coming out, being vulnerable, telling the story, you know, not to impress anybody, but to impress on people that change is possible. And when people have that, we're the lighthouse there, and they have to start making moves, right? And that's where we're at now, gentlemen.
Love it. So you said that change has to happen, right? How does change happen? What's
change
fundamental around change?
You know, it's a great question, and I think, you know, change is happening with you or by default. You know, we're always aging, we're always evolving. The world's changing around us every way, shape, or form. You know, change for me is time. Time is always ticking, right? But I feel like, you know, a plane is never on course. It's always course correcting. You know, but if you create, you know, if you have this part of your life where, you know, the only way to use an analogy now is just Groundhog Day, the same thing over and over again. And we know what burnout and boredom does for most people. You know, a lot of people have got that now. You know, but for things to change, we have to change. And it might just be, you know, a set way of doing things or a set way of going about things or a new job or a new relationship but, you know, Einstein says it, if you always do, what was the quote that he said? It's gone off the top of my head. You know, if you always do the same thing over and over again, expect a different result. That's insanity.
Yeah.
So, you know, giving people a possibility of change, as we know, is that uncertainty, is that, I don't know if it's going to work. And right now, people are just stuck with that. But in evolution, if we always had that process and never stepped into it, you know, change, man, it's the thing that's killing people right now. I think you're either changing or you're being changed, and it's up to you.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you personally do, kind of on a daily basis, to make sure you stay, or you constantly course correct, keep yourself in the game? You know, mentally, physically, emotionally. What are the tools that you implement?
Great question, but I think the first thing is to know your destination, right? Can't course correct if you don't know where you're going. So, you know, we know about setting outcomes and goals and getting into the, you know, the predictive future and what we're working towards. And as we know, no future's set in stone. So, you know, I set my vision, and, you know, that the capacity to grow mentally, physically, emotionally, financially is, you know, the predictive future in where I'm directing to. So now I've got that sat-nav direction. Now I've got to make the journey. So whatever that is, you know, if I'm over here, or, you know, there's many people want to get on a podcast opportunity, but I'm not going to do it if it's not on course. And I'm going to talk about oil investment. I'm not going to talk about stuff that don't fit the bill in where I'm going, because just through this, you know, we're new to this game. We're expanding and growing. You know, in 10 years' time, how this podcast looks now won't look now it does in 10 years, because we get better. We get better at speaking. We might get slower. We might get more productive. I don't know, but the whole point is that if it fits your bill, you know where you're going. If it doesn't fit your bill, that's how you course correct. So if I'm getting up in my morning and I'm not getting stuff done till 5 o'clock, and I'm being sluggish, or I'm not self-investing, and I'm not learning something new, or I'm not applying some self-care strategies, and I start to becoming that victim mentality again, then I know I'm not on course, right? Because that's not the vision. So I think the most important part for it is, you know, having that vision. Without vision, you've got no clarity. With no clarity, you can't be purposeful. Without purposeful, you don't have no purpose. Then there's no steps. Then there's no action. And there's no direction. And, you know, if we're talking about a system, that's what this is now, right? If you think of the goals that we are being told from day one, go to school, you get an education. That education will possibly get you a big job, But that's all about how good school you do, yeah? And that job that you get, yeah, you know, you capped at a potential earning. You could possibly grow the ranks. It's a pyramid system. The guy at the top stays there unless he gets knocked off or you do something to get there. You know, and think about working hard, working smart. Get a marriage, get an house for security, perceived security. And then, yeah, hopefully you make it to retirement. We can start to live your life. I'm like, you set them goals. You know, I'm a rule breaker. I'm destructive by design. I don't play by the rules. In fact, I don't even ask for permission or beg for forgiveness. But that's, you know, the whole point of the life that we're living is that if you ain't creating your future, then your future's being created. And that's the biggest message that we're trying to wake up, right? Yes, we have to apply by the system. Yes, we have to apply by the rules. But life's rules, you know, being told what journey you're on, how about you go make your own journey? You know, I know we're proud in this now and we're getting drowned out, but as, you know, being persistent, consistent with what we're doing, we're changing that dude or that girl or that kid one day at a time. And that's the key message. What do you want?
Yeah. Would you say, so you mentioned there about the sat nav and the vehicle, would you say the vehicle of change comes down to habits? So if you have your destination here, you know what you're currently doing doesn't work because you felt that you've analysed that, you reflected where you're at, just not working for you. So you say, okay, what do I want? Where do I want to go? You source a destination, you figure out where you want to go, then something's got to change. So would you say, or would you agree that the first step to change is changing a habit? By causing a change, that's going to take you to that direction and creating a habit of that change. So essentially the vehicle that's taking you to that destination is a series of habits.
Beautifully said, man. That's a great analogy. And I think the vehicle is your body. Your vehicle is your body and the steerer is your mind.
Yeah.
So, you know, emotions is what steers us, right? Emotions are the vehicle. The emotions is what steers us in the right way. Emotions are there for a reason, as we know. But if you look at a lot of the causes that are going on right now, like what we've created, you know, everyone wants to talk about this surface-based information. But when we go to a deep understanding for a lot of these causes, you know, the effect is the habit.
Yeah.
Sorry, the effects of what's going on right now, the cause is the habit. So if you're, you know, overweight or you've got these issues going on around mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, let's have a look at your habits. You know, show me your habits, I'll show you your future. And it might be a bit more deeper than that, but this is understanding that people can understand. You know, if you're constantly drawing from your bank account and not putting back in, you become overdrawn. And this is where the hidden charges happen. So yeah, you know, I want that predictive future. The vehicle's going to get me there. So the habits of me having a body that gets me through life, not just carry me around. You know, having a voice that was given for us, not to us. You know, mental habits, you know, stuff that we, the decisions that we're making, the things that we're watching, we're hearing, we're listening to, all predict where, you know, and this is what I was saying before, if you constantly not got a predictive future and driving towards where you want to be and continuing that, then you're being told what to think, feel, and do.
Yeah.
Period. You know, so yeah, like the habits that we've got, you know, like, you know, the source and investing in all these accounts, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, cellular. You know, if that don't make sense, then I don't know what does. So yeah, a great analogy. The vehicle is your body. You know, the emotions in your mind is how we steer it. The predictive future where we're going to is the change in the capacity that you know, a life that are designed, you know, a life by design. You know, always talking on about, you know, labels and all these designer labels. How about you design your own life? Live a life by design.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't do that because of this whole security thing, right? Oh, I'll get a stable job, secure job, because then I am fixed and I'm secure and it's all cozy and nice, right? But right now what's going on has proven, in it, that nothing is stable, you know? There's no security in anything.
Security in yourself.
Apart from in yourself, yeah.
That's it, fellas. You know, the biggest world that we need to look after right now is our own, us. You know, you know, when we're good, everything else is good. You know, when you know, we have that saying, you know, if the king and queen don't eat first, the kingdom will fall. But you know, there's a part of me that wants to go like that, right? I told you so. Because for a long time I've been beating this drum. Look, priority of self-care, looking after your immune system. We're talking right now about vaccines, all that other stuff. Not going to get into it too much, but the biggest vaccine, or the number one protector of you, is your immune system. This comes down to what we eat, what we think, what we feel, what we see, what we do, the sleep, you know, all the crazy stuff in there. And it's, you know, not rocket science. You've got a petri dish, you put a cell in there and you put nutrient signals or nutrients in there. That's a powerful signal. The cell moves towards it, put them in a toxic negative and it moves away. This is science. You know, so you're talking about the security of you comes down to the level of investment that you're putting in. But this perceived security, you know, I know guys that have 3 million quid on a bridge. I know I might go overboard a little bit, but a bridge is a loan that you get towards doing a development, right? This guy's 8 weeks out for making 1.4 million. He's got 80 staff. He's on the last drawdown. And then this thing goes and happens. When you've got a bridge, you have to put it against something as a protection, yeah? Which is against his house, his mother-in-law's house, his own mum's house, to get this money. And it's a great deal to have when you're in this game. Like, a lot of guys will be listening to this, like, yeah, bridges are great. It's not when the economy drops at a click of a finger. If you go back to 4 years ago, I'm saying the biggest threat that we have right now is bacteria. I didn't know if it was virus or something about like our own bacteria, our microbiome, you know, going in depth into that. Is the point of, you know, this perceived security. Now, on the other end of that spectrum, you've got a woman who I knew that was in a supermarket. She's worked there for 27 years, lost her job. You're talking about essential workers, builders that had contract, lost it. Now, I know that's the strategy that they're all saying that we need to do, but the ride of the economy. But what is security to you? You know, we were talking about multiple sources of income, being in the online digital space, make sure that your eggs are all in one basket, you know, having more money just at the end of the month. You know, a lot of people live mouth to mouth, and I know how that feels. I ain't going back there. So I'll do everything in my power to make sure I'm not in that position. So the protection and security not comes from the state. It's down to the decisions that you're making. So there's a part you can blame them, but there's a part you have to blame yourself too. You know, so, you know, we have to take responsibility for our decisions, our actions, our securities, you know, and right now there's more worrying times than this virus, and it's fear and panic, you know, spreading like wildfire, you know, for anyone that's going to pass through this route right now, the investment and the security and the protection of how to stay calm in such a chaotic place is the people that are going to make it through. And I don't say don't be fearful of what's happening right now, but you have to be very careful of what you fear. Be concerned, you know what I mean? Because right now you have to be in control of what you're in control of, as we know. When you can try and control the uncontrollable, like your predicted future and this perceived security and this pension that you think is going to get it to the end of the days and live out your life in Miami, licking women's faces at the casino table, the pina colada. It's nonsense, man, you know?
Yeah. Ben, you mentioned calm there and the importance of staying calm. What do you do, or do you do anything? In fact, I know you do, because one of your phrases is win the morning, right? Win the morning, win the day. What do you do to work on yourself to maintain this kind of, or to try and make sure that you can stay calm when shit's going on? Because it does go on, right? Even, you know, you're a cool guy, but stuff goes on, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, the ability to stay calm is just not reacting. It's not like, oh, everything's calm. It's just being, you know, like counterfeit money. You'll question counterfeit money, a $100 bill in your hand, but when you're getting fed some shit, you know, you don't really want to filter that. So the ability to stay calm is just creating space between what you're seeing, thinking, and hearing, and your reaction internally and externally. So, you know, we know how much, you know, we're wired for survival, yeah? In terms of we're always in a state of survival, because that's the first law of the jungle. So if you're always in that state, then right now, all this stuff that's going on, you know, the body's just filtering danger. And right now you've got every reason to be a little bit scared, right? But you've got to have some protection barriers in place. So, you know, baseline one for most people, you just need to get up and win the morning. Win the morning, win the day. You know, a strategy, a self-care, a discipline that you serve yourself before you serve anybody else. You know, it's like putting on your armor before you come out your kingdom. And, you know, the strategy that we have in place now, or the program that we have in place, is a couple of habits, very basic but very powerful habits that invest in you physically, mentally, and emotionally, and even cellularly, right? So we built a program from the ground up that, you know, for 60 trillion cells, then we need to nourish these in some way. So we have a supplement that hits that. Supplements right now is, you know, the new era. You know, you need a balanced diet, good food, quality food, hydration. That call comes on top of that. But any ability, you know, to move the body in the morning, you know, wake up the body, let it know it's awake, circadian rhythm, get yourself in daylight. When I say daylight, you know, I know the UK's not always got the But you're talking about that type of natural light, not your blue light coming from your TV or your iPhone first thing in the morning, that close to your eyes. It starts signaling the body that we're awake. And then drinking water, one of the most powerful nutrients on the planet. Well, I was 70% made of this stuff. And you say to people, do you drink water? They look at you, got an alien in your head. You know what I mean? And then journaling, as we know, fellas, is one of the most powerful tools for the mind. It's like gym for the mind. Exercising the mind every day. And what you're doing there is that you're just focusing what your attention's on. And forward, all over speaking about gratitude or on a podcast speaking about that. But when you understand how powerful and impactful that is to the emotional health and the repetitions in the rounds of feeling well, having that minute to slow down, think what you're grateful for, place your attention on it, get that, chemical reaction, which is an emotion, and put that baby down on a piece of paper is like hardwiring the mind. And then, going into the predictive future, again, a powerful question. How can I make today great? What task have I got to do? So now I'm navigating that compass, but, for most people, winning the morning right now is the very first step and enough of a stretch of change to feel uncomfortable, but getting that process that we start to adapt.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, sorry, Lee, you got a question?
No, go for it.
You mentioned earlier, mate, about how you've invested loads of money in yourself and you've gone on courses and things like that. How important would you say it's been to your kind of development to have had help over the years? Because I know there'll be people listening to this, and I used to be like this, who will think, I'll just do it on my own. I'll be all right. I'll go and learn off YouTube, or I'll go and do this. You know what I mean? How important and how big was the impact being on your life, actually investing in yourself and getting someone to help you, or having, a program to follow and that kind of stuff?
Phil, that's probably the best question today. It's a very powerful question, for the reason being, the number one asset to ever invest in is you. I'm in the property game. I'm in multiple industries in terms of, money management and earning potential. But, the vehicle of making that or making great decisions comes from that, that self-investment. So I'll, hopefully one day I'll be sat here saying I've done 7 figures. But you've also got to be mindful, I know leaders need leadership. And for me, investing, it comes from a process, connecting with the person that is about to teach me. Have they got, the skill set and knowledge that I'm looking for? Not trying to be them. I'm looking to take some fruit from their tree, add it to my flavor, and development like that is very important. And as creatures as we are, we're meant to be connected. We're meant to build little cities. We're meant to do things together as we go. Not one of us is stronger than all of us. So, I've always got a little filtering system of how we invest, but you've also got to be careful that although we're thirsty for knowledge, we're drowning in information. And all that process, I've lost my way a little bit, like, we're doing mindset stuff, then, with one of the best closers in the world, marketing in the world, out there with people like Garrett J. White and all these other, you start to like filtering their stuff into you. So he's taking the information, but keeping your personality. Does that make sense? Like, you really got to keep it, not try to be, I don't want to be the next trend. I want to be me. Speaking my truth and the way I go about things is obviously trying to attract that marketing. So it's understanding the system, it's understanding the skill set and knowledge. Not every footballer plays the same way. If that was the case, we'd all have right wingers, right? And it's understanding that. So in the world of development, you've got to invest, time and energy and money into people that can, fill the gap. But you've also got to be mindful that you're not becoming this person or trying to be someone that you're not. And that's what I think a big problem with development right now is that they get into development and think I've got to lose who I am and be like them. And it's not the case. It's a myth. Yeah.
You see that on social media a lot, don't you? People posting posts that exactly the same as someone who's got 1 billion followers. They're like, I'm just going to copy him. Like, well, you're not him. And it shows through, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then one week they're being him. The next week they're being somebody else. And the next week, like, hang on a second. One minute you were saying this, and then now you're saying this, and then now you're saying that. It's you do say it quite a lot. Like, you do say it, but like you said, it's the message, isn't it? It's the message of what you're trying to spread, the message of what you're trying to preach, but by using the tools, using what's available around you, and letting it out. Like you said earlier on, you've been gifted with a voice and not to write stuff down.
Yes, really.
Copy everyone who's writing, it would send your head into it would send it mental, wouldn't it? Like, use your own gifts, use your voice. Same for me. I'm way better at speaking than I am writing. If I write, I can't even understand my own handwriting. Never mind how's anybody else going to understand. You know what I mean? So like, I'm the same. I'm more gifted with my voice. So it's using your own personality and, like you said, your own flavor to get the message that you want and that you want to be putting out into the world and getting it out in your way.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying before, like, you know, I have my little thing, the real talk, and I got asked that question, like, why do you call it real talk? Like, do you think you're real? And I'm like, man, your opinion of what's real to me is irrelevant, because what I'm doing is being real to me. You know, I'm putting a message out there that's changed my life. I'm putting out a message and skill set and knowledge from a place of value to hopefully help somebody. But when you transmit that message, you attract them people. You know, like, you know, the doctor analogy, if you want the flu, hang around people that have got the flu. If you want to talk shit, hang around people that are talking shit. You know, I only speak from a deep understanding of what's overcome and helped me in my life and see the changes. And, you know, again, talking about sorts of habits, that's why I feel equipped to say, hey, man, you know, if we coach you about habits, you're going to have a different effect. But this whole, I feel like the world right now is so externally based that you're putting out things out there just to get your own feel like, or you feel good. You know, you didn't have the same problems from a social media perspective as we did, you know, when I was a young man. So I know these different pressures, but that whole, I've got to be somebody so someone likes me, that's the quickest cause and effect to put you in a grave. You know, living, and then you've got no life of having no purpose, right? You're not living a life purposeful. And we've all been there. You know, I'm wanting to be some guy I wasn't. You know, I'm wanting to be the hip-hop rapper or whatever it may be. Although I took some inspirational guys, I was trying to be somebody that I'm not. You know, and if you're living a life like that, then you're going to die broke, no matter how much money you got, you know?
It's very hard work as well, because I've been there as well. I walked around with this mask on all the time. I was trying to be inside. I was dying inside, but then I had this perfect little mask I could just pull out the cupboard, smash on, and I was the kid who was loving life. I was the kid who had it all. I was the kid who everyone wanted to be, pulling the birds and all of this stuff. But inside, I was dying. And then after a long period of time, I keep trying to be this person and using this mask, my body just deteriorated and deteriorated and deteriorated, because it costs, and I use that word on purpose, it costs a hell of a lot of energy.
Of course. Oh, man, that's so, man, I'm glad we've raised that ticket. But, you know, it goes back to like, well, Ben, how do you start? Lee, Phil, how do you start? Well, you know, I remember, start saying no when you want to say no. Start saying yeah when you want to say yeah. You know, I remember a woman in Greece, we was doing a retreat out there, and she come over and she was like, I know what you are. I thought, man, I've been bubbled there. Was all dressed in togos. We're in the temple of Poseidon. She's like, I know what you are. I've been giving these speeches all day. I'm like, she's going to tell me, you know, something I don't want to hear. So, you know, I've always got that cloud over my head, like someone's going to go, hey, you might be motivational now, but you know you are like that all the time.
Yeah.
We learn by our mistakes. But I remember this woman saying, have you been listening to The Voice? And I'm like, what? What voice? And she's like, you know, like what she was trying to say is your gut feeling. And she hit a nail on the head. She was a spiritualist, and it was the first time I really like gave someone like my time, because, you know, I'm not massively into understanding God, but I understand universe, energy, connection. You know, I'm into that, whether it's spiritual in that conversation or atoms and matter in that conversation. We can have that conversation. But, you know, she told me, looked me dead in the eye, and she says, you're an indigo child. I was like, what's one of them? She's like, you're a warrior of the universe. You always struggle with like society's rules, man-made rules. I'm like, have you phoned my mum or something? You know, but you've always had love, compassion, you know, you're respectful, and, you know, you always cared. She's like, there's a real shift of indigo children from the 80s, right? And these people are here, you know, to set a new day, a new way, a new path. And I'm like, that sounds like me. But the reason why I'm telling you the story is because she said, when I realized that she was on about The Voice, she was on about your gut instinct, you know, and I said, I've just been following my heart. You know, that led me in on the street as well. I've gone left and people have gone right, and horrible things have happened. And it was just an intuition, you know, that gut, that, no, I'm just going with that. You can never lose that. It's always there. And sometimes I have to go quiet to listen. You know, and then it was crazy because from there, and then flew to California to see Garrett J. White at the Warriors Summit. And the first thing he does, walks out on the stage, he puts his hand up and goes, "Who is the voice?" What is it with everyone with his voice? So, you know, everyone's got his voice, and I'm like looking confused. I'm like, I hear the voice, you know, like, I just understand. I just, again, growing, right? Change, like I didn't know what it was, but now I know what it is now. And he was saying something similar, you know. It's just that, and you've had it, Lee, you know, Phil, you've had it. I'm sure there's going to be many people that are listening that goes, I get that, you know, well, whatever that is, it's real. You know, that's the light in the end of the tunnel, whatever it is, you've got to follow that. You know, that's you, that is your purpose. You know, I know it's a bit mush cookie word, purpose, but it's a real word.
Yeah.
You know what? It's only what matters to you, only matters to you. Nothing else matters. It's your life by design. It's a life to live. It's a life to create, not a life to stay fearful. What's normal now is not normal. This fearful state that being healthy is medication. Fuck that shit. You know what I mean? No, we know. Anybody that speaks out about real life habits, they're slammed. I mean, it's illegal to say you've got a strategy if it ain't drugs. Well, I've seen all drugs and I've seen what they do. Do you know what I mean? I've seen what they do. Mentally, physically, and financially, whether they're illegal or legal, most of them sit in the same bracket. The synthetic, it ain't real. I'm not saying medication has got its time and place, but it ain't a strategy of the future. It ain't a strategy of self-care. It's a look at the problem, not at the cause. And again, going back to the habit now, you know, for anyone listening or why you're tuning in, there's a reason why you're here. And if you get to this point in the podcast and know this, apply those habits, get that result. What you invest in, you will get out. And we're proving testaments. We don't speak with, oh, it may be an if. We're 100% certain with truth and real experience. There's no myth here, just reality, right? And that's, you know, that's the powerful message that needs to be out there. And it can, you know, it's something that I've got to take it to my grave with. I know you boys are passionate about that, but, you know, in all things considered, man, we're as healthy as our habits.
Healthy as our habits, yeah. I love that.
I think that's a perfect point to call it there. So people can ingest that, exactly what you've just said, that final closing chapter, paragraph, phrase, inspiration, whatever you want to call it. Allow people to ingest that because it's very, very important.
And full of energy as well, that last sort of minute or so, wasn't it? I like that. I like that.
I don't know what happened there. What did I say? I went to one of them trances again. I went into one of them trances again. I don't know what I put. Did you say? I was like, I ain't got a clue.
Yeah.
the Lord had my head.
Yeah.
Nah, but you know, it's a real pleasure, and you know, there's always going to be real talk. We talk from the heart. We keep it real. We're not trying to impress anybody. We're just trying to show people what's possible, and that's the name of the game, man. So fair play to you, fellas. It's an absolute honour to roll with you, speak some truth, man, and be questioned like I'm on an interview, and I'm not guilty. It's so good.
Mate, it's been absolute pleasure, man, having you on here. First guest. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's been a good one, mate. I know we could talk us three for a long time about this sort of shit, couldn't we? We could
talk about win the morning, win the day.
Everything.
I'm ready for the day. But yeah, before we wrap this up, Ben, how can other people who's listening to this, where can they find you? Where can they be following you at if they want to see more of your message and what you speak about? Where's the best?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we're on Facebook, the two social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Ben Fanning, Fanning. You know, I had a hard time in school with that second name, right? And then we've got Benjamin Fanning on Instagram. And we've also got, you know, our Mind and Transformation community on Facebook. But come through us that way, you know, we're selective in the people that we put in there. And, you know, we just want that great energy. So, yeah, you know, I'm always there to help. It's not just a little... I'm just not here to just say something. I'm here to give some value as well. So, you know, if you've heard something from this, you know, reach out. Let us know what you think, that you'll know what you feel. And just remember, if you listen to this right now, there's someone out there that could possibly need to hear this message. And there's no greater contribution than contribution. So like it, share it, get it out there. Let people know there's a true message out there. And we're just some dudes that care.
Yeah, 100%. You got anything to add, Phil?
No, mate. No, I love this. Good. All good. Absolute banger, mate. Really, Appreciate you coming on, my friend. We'll
I
catch up
appreciate
very,
being
very
here.
soon. Wicked.
Peace.
That was it.
No.
Peace.